Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to yet another episode of Rendezvous with Anza Saqib on CxO Global TV. CxO Global Forum is a knowledge sharing platform for all C levels across the globe. We take massive pride in contributing to the knowledge economy with our league of extraordinary thought leaders. Today, as well, we've got a very special guest with us. His name is Mr. Imran Khan. You know, a very, very apt name to be having in these days and times, but he is. Um, the founder of Raptor Games and a seasoned technology consultant. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you, Anja. It's a pleasure to be here as always.
Thank you for joining us. So, without further ado, everyone would like to hear about your journey. Where did you go to school? What did you study? How did you end up here?
Okay, great. So that's always fun to tell. So I'm born and raised Karachiite, always lived here, studied here, worked here all my life. I am by education both technologist and a marketing professional. So coincidentally, every job I've held has either been in sales or commercial in a technology company. So I guess I'm one of the very few people who made use of both their degrees properly because the MBA in marketing taught me sales and marketing, and the tech taught me how to go and look for jobs in tech companies. So I've been in the tech industry since about 2005, 2006. My first love in life was building data centers. So I spent the very large part of my life initially consulting, designing, building, deploying data centers in Pakistan. And then, the next love of my life, as most people on the forum know me, was cloud computing. And I co-founded and set up, one of the largest cloud computing companies in Pakistan called Rapid Compute.
Yes.
And yeah, and very recently, I've moved on to follow another passion of mine, which has been my passion since I was 5 years old, which is gaming. So this new lease on life is to basically do video games in Pakistan. So that is what's keeping me busy these days, and that is what I am obsessing about all the time at this point in time.
No, that's amazing because that is definitely something that I was totally looking forward to. Interviewing you, I interview many people, but very few of them are part of either the gaming industry or in gamification. So, um, let's talk about the gaming industry. Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who don't know, it is an industry that's much bigger than even the movie, TV, and film industry. So there's massive potential, especially after the announcement of the Metaverse. And we know that for Web 3.0, gaming is going to play a very big role. So watch and listen carefully to this interview because here we're going to be talking about the future. Right. So, Mr. Imran Khan, what exactly does Raptor Games do?
It's okay to get the names confused. People still refer to
I,
me as Imran Khan from Rapid. It's absolutely fine.
as
Uh,
long as you're getting the
so
rap part
yeah. As
correct.
I get rap part right, yeah. So Raptor Games is a Pakistani game publisher, and without giving too much away, we are currently working with some of the top developers in the country and creating games specifically catered to the local market. Pakistan in Pakistan, gaming is really big nowadays. Anyone who's in the gaming scene knows the crazy numbers. It is the biggest B2C market right now in Pakistan. So people keep talking about fintechs and retail, but there is not a single bigger B2C consumer market than gaming right now. And the spend on gaming annually and on monthly is astounding all over Pakistan and every parts of the country. And so our goal is to sort of jumpstart that and catalyze that, or move it even further by creating localized gaming content for the country, and in a way that's not been done before. So we're looking to have a lot of outreach to all these gaming communities nationwide and try to get them, on board to appreciate locally made, games and locally made game concepts, and which is now picking up steam. So if you look at all the emerging markets, everywhere from Vietnam to Philippines to Bangladesh and other places, localized content is becoming increasingly popular, not just in games. If you look at Netflix, for example, the amount of local content you're seeing on Netflix is increasing every day. You would hardly see any Indian content on Netflix. Now you see a lot of Indian content, which is local to the region. Same with Amazon Prime. Amazon Prime, if you have a subscription, if you boot it up, 90% of the content you'll see there is Desi content. Is because
Right.
people have started realizing power of localization. No matter how much we're into Western content, Western food, Western clothes, language, cultural sensitivities, religious sensitivities, they exist at the back of our mind. And we resonate very well with content of any sort, whether it be music, whether it be comics, movies, games, that is localized to the local market. And I think that's the psyche that Raptor Games is tapping into and looking to develop Pakistani
Indigenous
content
game,
on the gaming sphere. Yeah.
right?
So that's
No,
what we do as we do.
that's an amazing concept, and I'm so glad that you've brought it forward because uh, it's such a beautiful thing to be imagine playing like some games that are either racing games or trivia or strategy games that are built here in Pakistan, and I could totally imagine. Like for example, playing something like GTA in Islamabad, for example, or Lahore, Karachi, there's so much more to do. Um, However, before moving on, how do you think that the games industry is evolving right now as we speak in Pakistan? And what does the future look like for you? We spoke about the present, but let's talk about the evolution and what does the future look like?
Sure. So I'll answer the first part of the question first. So when I was setting up the company, and this is a matter of habit, one of the first things I did was do some very first-hand research on the kind of people that are working in the games industry. Because one of my key things has always been, even at Rapid, one of my key things has been to use local studios and local developers to make local content. Even at Rapid, we would always want to use local software houses, local developers, and would really refrain from outsourcing cross-border. So I wanted to find out the kind of talent that was available, and I kid you not, I was blown away. The kind of work local studios out of Islamabad and Lahore, especially, are doing in gaming and game development is astounding. The kind of blue chip international game
Hmm.
outsourcing that's been done to these studios is nothing short of amazing, and the quality content they produce is fantastic. So one of the biggest things I can tell you about the current scenario is there is so much amazing work being done that not for one moment did I even have to think of having to outsource internationally if I wanted to have games developed. So
Wow.
gaming as a career path, gaming as a business, in terms of game development, sorry, as a business, it's more important today in Pakistan and more fruitful today in Pakistan than it ever was. So currently, the at least in terms of the game development ecosystem, it's a wonderful ecosystem to be in Pakistan today. Again, and today, if you want to talk about how many people play games, even that number is now growing at double digits every 6 months. I spoke to a
Absolutely.
couple of companies who do these payment processing for PUBG and a couple of other people. And payments are a very good way of measuring how much user traction is there. And the numbers I saw were unbelievable. First of all, it made me even more sure about wanting to do this business when I saw
Yeah.
those numbers. But if you even take those numbers as a representation of how many people are playing, it is ridiculous how many people are playing. I think on one of the games at one point in time, more than 6.5 million people had played on a single day on one platform. Those are
Mhm.
ridiculously high numbers, which translate into ridiculously high revenues. So even from the development side and even on the player adoption side, and yes, we can thank
Yeah.
COVID for it
Sorry.
quite a bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. You're right. And even though you've made some very, very pertinent points, because I know a thing or two about the industry myself, I know that a lot of people are very proud of the developers that we have here. But a lot of times I've seen that there's a bit of a challenge because in a game, when you're talking about the gaming industry, it's very important to have people who are good with writing the storyline, for example, or developing characters, or because what we really like about internationally popular games is that it takes you through a journey, right? So do you think that's one area where we need to improve?
So I absolutely love that question, and it's a brilliant, intelligent question because that is the first hook into a gamer's psyche. The storyline, he has to love
Right.
he or she has to love the characters, have to love the premise, the story, everything about it, right? And those are the games you remember. So one of the biggest concerns I had was if our country had enough talent to do storylines, to do comic books, to do background character development, right? And
Mhm.
forget about the large studios that do this. I came across more than 10 to 20 freelance artists and storyboarders who had done some amazing work for local and international studios. And then they told me that they were only a drop in the ocean of talent that was available. So,
Mm-hmm.
because there's not been much local content in Pakistan, so I think none of us can judge whether they would actually execute or implement in the true spirit like we see abroad. But in terms of sheer talent, I saw some amazing work having been done. And I'm quite sure that given the right platform, these people will be
Mm-hmm.
able to create the same level of characters, the same level of backstories, the same level of connect with the audience as any international IP.
Right, absolutely. No, I tend to definitely agree with you. Um, so moving on, when you talk about startups in general, or even even the gaming industry, what do you think are some of the challenges for a founder being in Pakistan? Because I know you've been through that whole struggle phase, you've been through the phase. So, what are some of the success struggles for a startup founder?
Um, Okay, so for all startup founders, and I've mentored and I've mentored incubators and judged accelerators and stuff like that. So I've been in touch with a lot of founders. The biggest problem in Pakistan is that there is very little access to data. So when we have to make pitch decks or when we have to go meet investors and they want to know about the market size, about market utility, there is practically no formal way in Pakistan to get access to reliable data. And I'd always heard this, but now when I did that journey on my own, I realized I had to burn a lot of time and cash in getting on the ground myself to collect that data firsthand, which is a very sorry state of affairs because even smaller countries, if you Google it, they've got websites dedicated to every aspect of the population, what they watch, what they play, what they eat, what they drink, what their demographics are. And Pakistan, mein, this data is painfully hard to come across. Like a VC asked me a very simple question: what is the total identifiable market right now playing games? I had to use proxy indicators from all over telcos, ISPs, this, that, and the VC kept asking me, is there not one number you can give me of the amount of people who are on the platform? I said, no, I can't because my country doesn't have any statistics. And this is a problem even for founders who founded retail startups, who founded
Mhm.
fintech startups, who founded any kind of startup. आप उनसे पूछा आपको data कहीं से मिला? They have had to collect first-hand data. And that just
Right.
takes so much time and energy and money that sometimes those founders don't have. I think for me, that would be the biggest problem I hit. And that is the biggest issue that should be addressed by the government or the Bureau of Statistics, because there is a Bureau of Statistics in Pakistan. It's statistics.gov.pk. They should look into this and make statistics that can help people like us, convince investors or at least get market intel for our own product. It just doesn't. I think that's the biggest problem every founder will tell you.
Right. Absolutely. No, you're so right. But in terms of let's talk a bit about the corporate sector now because I know you've had a lot of experience there as well. And let's put your two passions together. So business and marketing plus gaming. Um, we've been hearing a lot of, especially with the MNCs and FMCG sector, we've been hearing about gamification and now all the big companies are moving towards it. How important do you think gamification is within the corporate sector and whether or not it actually adds any value? Because I know you understand games and I know you understand business.
Okay, great question. So first, understand why gaming works in general. Why is gaming such an organic topic? Why did after COVID, when everybody was stuck at home, everybody from your parents to your grandparents to your kids ended up gaming at some point in time? Because it's a very organic relationship. It's a reward and punishment based relationship. Every game you play rewards you for skill or game played well and punishes you for a job not well done. It's a very organic relationship. And what corporates have started doing is started to take that relationship and putting it into the corporate environment. So I know of a company, I'm not going to mention the name, it's a local company, a local, very well known company. And their CTO, a couple of weeks back in Peshawar, told me this amazing story that how they have gamified their internal service delivery employees and how they have this entire app for the service delivery guys that reward them, that actually give them in game currency and points
Yeah.
based on how
Uh-huh.
many orders they ship out, how fast they ship the orders out. And there's a proper leaderboard in the office, and everybody has like these rankings and their graphics and their characters, and how then those rewards at the end of the month actually translate into actual financial rewards to that. But the entire process when he showed me was absolutely amazing. And he's like, no matter how many trainings and motivational speeches we give them on improving service delivery, gamification did that automatically because it's such a risk and reward based psychological relationship. And you started companies doing that in terms with attendance, something as small as attendance and punctuality. You've had companies doing this in terms of output and production, and not one scenario has it not worked. So I think gamification is the key to unlocking greater employee potential or even greater productivity in general, I think. So it's
Mhm.
worked a lot for a lot of companies. It's a very interesting concept, and I hope more companies do it.
Yeah, absolutely. You made a very interesting point there. You talked about monetization as well, and um, winning points and then converting that to real life currency. We know that it's being done internationally as well in terms of some of the really popular games that are played on platforms. you know there are leaderboards. People end up making game money that they can convert later on to real money. And do you think
Yeah.
with Raptor games we will be seeing something like that in the future?
Yeah, so we're looking very closely at the play to earn model. That's what you're referring to. So we're looking
Yes.
very closely at the play to earn model where, so you see, so let me explain. Some manner of virtual money to real money is already happening. So, for example, you see people creating these very valuable profiles, and then they sell these profiles to other gamers, which has all
Yeah,
these nice things on it,
sure.
right? So, some
Yeah.
level of monetization has already been happening, where people are selling their game credentials to other people. But what you're referring to is a very squarely play to earn model where in game monetization actually relates or transfers to out of game real life money. And crypto gaming is very big in that area now, where
Yes.
people who are actually playing games like Axis Infinity and the others get these
Mhm.
coins within the game that can actually go into your Binance wallet or something like that
Right.
and can be
Absolutely.
cashed out.
Mhm.
And that's something we're working on and looking very closely at. But the problem is in Pakistan, crypto is banned. So the big
Yes.
issue is that if you want to do crypto, how do people get money in? And if they get money out, how do they get money out of there to encash it? But yeah, it's a very interesting space because it kind of rewards the player for giving 2 3 hours a day to a certain
Mhm.
platform, and it's a win-win scenario for both the game creator and the game player. So yeah, to answer your question, Raptor is in fact our journey with gaming started with first looking at a free to like a play
Play
to
to
earn
earn.
crypto game, and then we
Uh-huh.
kind of went like the regulation is not really right there right now, so we'll go to this later. So it really is in our roadmap. It definitely is.
Great. That's inspiring to say the least. Um, Moving on. So when you talked about monetization, there's also another key factor that comes in. We let's talk about ads happen. What do you
Yeah.
think? Because sometimes to a gamer they can be very annoying, and they sort of psychologically impact you to the extent that okay, I don't want any in-game ads. Um, what is your take on advertising with regards to the gaming industry?
Okay, so I'll agree that in-game ads, when they pop up between them, this usually happens in mobile games. It doesn't happen
Yeah,
on desktop and
yeah,
consoles. But in-game advertising is annoying. But people who play games for free, they need to understand that the developer needs to fund itself from somewhere, and it funds itself through the games, the ads that you watch while you're playing the mobile game. So it's very
right.
important that we understand our relationship with the game. If it's free, then you have to, live with the ads.
And I
But
think a
if I
lot
talk
of
about
the games give you freebies as well, right? If you do watch certain ads.
Yeah,
Mhm.
because in that the game developers model is to earn via the ads, so that's why it rewards you for watching the ad. But if you look at the way the non-mobile gaming industry is moving, or even mobile, for example, so a lot of the other a lot of game studios have moved to more creative ways of in-game advertising, and
Yeah.
that's some place that we're working on, uh,
Uh-huh.
and that is through advertising through in-game assets. Buildings can have
Yeah.
billboards, things can have moving advertisement inside, music, videos, and that's not intrusive because that's within the
But
confines
it's
of the game.
immersive.
And, yeah, and it's not annoying. It's pretty, and it's a great way to earn money, right? And even the brands would actually prefer it more because they wouldn't be scared of you skipping the ad because they know that it's within the game. It will have higher recall. It'll be able to be viewed a couple of million times as
Mm,
opposed to a static ad. So our take on advertisement is very important because we've done the numbers on our project, and advertisement really does pay the bills, but we plan to do it in the
mhm.
least fictional way possible to make it as
Uh,
enjoyable as possible to watch an ad, as you can say.
that's brilliant. So let's move on to something that everyone has been talking about these days, the metaverse, right? We know that there's going to be a lot of new changes that are coming our way. We know that VR and AR is going to play a very big role in the gaming industry. Are those some of the possibilities that you're exploring?
Yes, so the metaverse is generally is picking up pace, right? But that's a space that we are on a wait and watch approach on. And for the reason for that is the metaverse gets really exciting if you consider virtual reality, which is VR. And the
Yeah.
biggest problem with VR right now across the world and even in Pakistan is that the barrier to entry in terms of cost is very high. There is no
Mhm.
VR console cheaper than 70, 80,000 rupees in Pakistan, or in other words, less than $300, $350 in the US as well. And that really doesn't create a mass market effect for players in Pakistan, at least. And as a company that is squarely looking to earn its revenue or create a market in Pakistan, we're looking at metaverse from a distance right now. Not that we don't have the capability to do it, but like I said, the barrier to entry is quite high in terms of cost. And as a business model or as a company that wants to earn revenue, we're definitely not looking at it in the next year or two, to be fair, unless something drastically changes, right? But we're on a very wait and watch approach on at least the metaverse. We understand its value, but we also understand that most gamers in Pakistan would not be able to participate in that in the metaverse at this point in time due to the high cost.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about your personal life. I know that for usually for startup founders, it can be very difficult to maintain a work-life balance. Right? How do you usually manage to do it?
Uh, Till now, I've been managing to do it. I think because we're in a very nascent stage, so there are things that don't pile up. It's things that are happening in stages. But I've been
Hmm.
told by all my other friends who have startups that in the next month or two, I should be looking at having a sleeping bag at work and sleeping and waking up at work. So all my friends say, okay, take a set of toiletries and keep it in the office. Take some extra set of clothes. Keep some shampoo. Keep some stuff in the office because you'll need it because you won't be getting out
Right.
much. But I mean, those are things I'm kind of looking forward to because I've been in like a corporate life for the last 16, 17 years of my life. So these are things that are exciting for me. But up till now, I've managed to keep like a work-life balance. I have managed to shut off my laptop at 8, 8:30 in the night. I managed to take out time for lunch and dinner, spending time with the family. So I hope I'll still be able to do that. But to answer your question, I am completely prepared to sacrifice all of that for a few months.
We wish you all the best for it. What do you think is your biggest achievement so far?
So there've been a few, but one of the last ones that I'm extremely proud of was with my last engagement, where I was with Rapid Compute as a co-founder. I think that's something I'm very, very proud of because very similar to actually Raptor in the fact that was setting out to do something in a market that wasn't really developed and was
Mm-hmm.
setting out to do something in a way that hadn't been done before. So I'm very proud of where that company is and may it go from strength to strength, inshallah, in the future. I'm very proud of how that company evolved and how we were able to do these really amazing, fun things. So I'm very proud of that. And I hope I can replicate a lot of that magic at Raptor because I'm kind of doing the same crazy thing all over again, opening up a market that doesn't exist, trying to do things that have never been done before, and this time with my own money. Yeah. So I think that I'm very proud of whatever I've done in the last 10, 11 years in terms of setting up new things, and I'd like to keep doing that.
Right, inshallah. Um, so, what do you think is your take home or best advice that you've ever received in your life so far?
Oh, so there are two words of advice I can never forget. And I think that's been my mantra throughout. One of the most
If you don't
consistent
mind
advice
sharing
I've
you these pieces of advice, please. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So one of the key things that I had the great opportunity to work with great bosses and great people in my life. And one of the message that's been consistent has always been to stay humble. I mean, I remember every time I was promoted, I was told, here's your promotion, here's your whatever, but please stay humble, stay grounded. And that's been a message I've been getting since my first job. And I think that's very, very important to stay relatable to people, to stay humble, not let success go to your head. And I think that creates long-lasting relationships as well of well-meaning people who really mean, good for you to happen. So I think that's one advice I've really gotten that's really important. And the second advice I've always believe has helped me out is I believe always go into the details of things because I judge a lot of founders as well. And if I wear on my startup hat and I talk, so I've judged a lot of founders and startups at NIC and other places. And the biggest problem I see is we tend to take shortcuts which
Mm-hmm.
creep like show their ugly head in the future. And people don't want to do enough groundwork. People hate documentation. They don't want to do enough documentation, enough research, enough data. And they just they want people to believe what they're saying. They want to go through the process really fast. And I believe the one thing that I've always stayed consistent on is doing my due groundwork before I get into anything. So even before I went into Raptor, I spent the first 3 months just doing the gross groundwork, completely in terms of the target market, the product, the financial viability before I set out on this journey. And I think that's what a lot of people miss. And that's also because a lot of people don't read in our country. One of my biggest complaints with founders and startups is if I ask them on a pitch, what was the last book you read? They will not have remembered a book in the last 2 years. So उनको ये कौन सिखाएगा? So the problem is people don't go into details and then they suffer in the long term. So two pieces of advice would be stay humble, and number two, do your homework, do your research, get into the details of things. It's very important if you want to succeed at your job, or even if you want to succeed as a startup founder.
Right. Thank you very much. These are excellent pieces of advice, and I'm sure a lot of people are inspired. So, I have a surprise for you. We're just going to do a very short surprise, round with you, where we're going to keep this rapid fire, and I'm going to let out a couple of terms, and they could be, uh, names of brands as well, names of games. But you just have to be very candid and as open as possible, and say the first thing that comes to your mind. Right? So, are
Sure.
you ready? All right. Number one, Unity.
Football.
All right. Cloud gaming.
Raptor games.
Okay. Amazing. PUBG.
Social gaming.
Interesting. Um, Candy Crush.
Fun.
Halo.
Exciting.
Right. Thank you. That would be all. You did well. And, it's been an amazing interview with you. I personally got to learn a lot. I'm sure our audience members did as well. But towards the end, what I would like to ask you is what do you think is the utility of forums like CxO Global?
Well, I've said before in my previous interviews as well, I think Pakistan has a serious lack of community forums. So there are very few forums like these where like-minded people can collaborate. I think the biggest utility I've seen at this forum is where people can actually reach out for advice and assistance. So we've had a lot of professionals reach out to peers in the industry who they wouldn't have met otherwise and ask for serious feedback and input on things. And they've gotten people who stepped up and given advice and given assistance. I think that is the biggest benefit of having a forum of like-minded people. And I will, inshallah, get to experience that when I call upon people at the forum for my gaming startup. So, yeah, but I think the biggest advantage is to connect with people because connecting in a city like Karachi, in a lifestyle like Karachi's, and in a lifestyle like Pakistan as well, overall, it's very difficult to connect with people. So I think connecting people is the biggest utility of forums like CxO.
Right. Thank you very much, Mr. Imran Khan. We wish you all the best, and we hope and pray that you keep contributing to the knowledge economy.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, Anza.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that will be all for today. Please keep watching, keep us updated with your comments and feedback, and keep watching CxO Global TV. We'll see you next time.